Summer Circuit. We're one match in to the feature tournament number 2, and we saw Dog take the first series over Tom 60229. But we're about to jump into the second match between VX14 and Pavel. Now, a funny story here, Chucky.
Okay.
And VX14 actually qualified in 2 separate NA Open tournaments. And in
Hmm.
both Open tournaments, he played Priest all the way through the Open bracket.
Yeah. Good
What do you
class.
think? What do you think of that?
Well, TJ, I've been playing myself some Priest lately, and
Hmm.
it's surprisingly good. I kind of started playing it because Team Force Boys, we have to bring 6 classes to Archon Team League every week, and Paladin wasn't going to cut it last week, so I was like, I needed to find a new class, and I tried Priest, and it did really well, so I was like, sure, why not? And really surprised me. I've heard VX's priest deck is wonky, is how they described it in our notes. Pretty excited to see it.
Yeah, and yeah, his I don't know. It's like super. I have no idea. When I saw it, was like I was like, oh, this is super creature heavy. It's like Kalento's priest, and then all of a sudden he's like bringing out double light bomb, double holy fire, double shadow madness. And I'm like, okay, screw that. Everything I just said, throw it out the window. But and one of the admins just told us that he actually can bring a separate deck lineup since he qualified for both opens. He gets to compete in Group A and Group B since he won 2 opens. And he can actually bring a separate deck lineup for Group A and Group B. And then if he makes it through, he can pick which one he likes better to make it into the finals.
Yeah, and that's pretty relevant. I mean, going into 4-man groups, you kind of want to tailor your tech choices towards your opponents. Everybody kind of gets to know who they're potentially facing. I'm not sure if they got to know groups before deck submission, but being in some of these situations before, it's not as cut and dry as ladder where you're just going with your deck. You're always picking the same stuff. It's just your standard hunter list. Like you might want to change your traps, might want to change some tech choices in that pre-stack depending on who you're up against. Maybe throw in weapon removal, like Tom did for his last match. So, and deck
Yeah.
submission was actually less than 2 hours ago, so they did know their groups. So lots of lots of studying, maybe lots of mind games.
Yeah. And it's going to be, I mean, these guys have very different lineups aside from the Hunter, but it feels like most lineups are going to have Hunter be over this weekend between today and tomorrow. It's um, pretty widely considered one of the auto include decks. I thought Warrior was also, but VX14 actually doesn't like the Warrior. I don't think I've seen him play Warrior in either of the open brackets that he participated in, and now he doesn't have it in this feature tournament also. So that's a little bit interesting whether that he decides to uh, to go with Priest and Druid over having like a Warrior.
Yeah, I think that's basically the notable exclusion from his lineup is no Warrior. All the other 3 people in his group brought Warrior. I mean, Patron is generally considered to be something you need. If you're not bringing it, you're handicapping yourself, is what some
Mm.
people might say. And if you're not good at it, it's time to get good at it because it's just a clear advantage in most people's minds to bring it.
Yeah, and while Pavel's on Team Empire, he's from Russia. VX14 is teamless, but he is friends IRL with Razor, who's was most notably known for Math Warrior. He's also a part of the practice group Under the Radar, and he says that he uses Razor as a tool a lot, and he's helped with the priest deck. And Razor is one of the more innovative minds in Hearthstone today. Even though you don't see him in many tournaments, he always has really creative and innovative decks. So I'm not surprised that VX14 has used him as an influence to craft these pretty crazy priest decks.
Well, all innovation aside, looks like match one, we're going to need our SM work buttons because it's a hunter mirror.
Yeah. Well, he does have Dr. Boom, so that indicates that it is
Mhm.
going to be mid range for VX14.
Yeah, I think Pavel, from what I remember, likes to play the hybrid hunter more so than either the aggro or the mid range. It looks like more of a, solid mid range from BX14. Kind of missed a one drop if even has them. But Okay, so Pavel is going to trade, so it's probably just like a freezing trap. Just setting that up ahead of time, and it should contest this animal companion quite nicely. Yep, and it looks like a hybrid hunter is what it is from Pavel, but with the Dr. Boom, so both very late game decks.
Yeah, it's
We're getting word the secret is Snake.
snake trap. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this seems a very mid-rangey hybrid hunter.
Oh, but it seems like it's freezing though, right? Oh,
Yeah, the
I'm
way you played it.
yeah. VX14 basically wants to wait to attack with an Unleash the Hounds before triggering this. But obviously, you want to wait until you get value off of that card. So I doubt we'll see that immediately.
Mhm.
But I mean, he could end up doing that next turn. He could go for Unleash Mad Scientists if he expects it to be the freezing trap, which generally when your opponent just plays a trap from hand on turn two, you can almost guarantee it's freezing. But in this case, it's actually not.
Yeah, unless they. I've had this situation happen a couple times. My opponent will be a hunter and they're on the coin. They'll coin out a trap and then play knife juggler the next turn. Like you can't
Sneaky.
you can't give it away any
Ooh.
more than that.
But Pavel actually does give it away, and you see a little bit of like a confused look on VX's face.
Yeah.
I'm
Is
not
it
sure how much I
snipe?
like that. Yeah, like, well, it can't be sniped. He's already tested for that. So, I mean, now he's going to go face,
Yeah.
most likely. Find out it's Snake, and then just go from there. Play out his hand. He gets to play Mad Scientist Animal Companion, whereas had Pavel not attacked, you might have seen an Unleash for one to play around freezing. Because you
Yeah.
never want to get your Shredder frozen. It's just
Yeah.
terrible. Oh, but the companion first. Now going face would be a bit of a mistake. Uh, so it looks like, oh no, he's going to trade. And so somehow Pavel basically tricked him, I guess, and walks right into it.
That's crazy. I feel like as a hunter playing against a snake trap, if you know it's snake trap, is one of the easiest classes to do with because you can basically just ignore it and go face and race them, and then you utilize it for like extra damage later on in the game once you have like unleash.
Hmm.
You can make it so that you actually get more damage from hitting into the creature with snake trap to like set up for a lethal with extra hounds or something. But he was like, I swear it's explosive trap, so ends up being punished.
Yeah, and now Pavel gets to freezing trap a hound, most likely. Yep.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it does clear off the board. I might have. I guess he's just going to play Savannah next turn. So, really, no point in setting up for a Houndmaster. You could have used the bow to clear off something to save a Hound, but with the Savannah High Main coming down next turn, that's not really a consideration to make.
Yeah. It's going to be matched up against a Doctor Boom, however. So he does, well, he has his own Doctor Boom, but you can't really. Taking at least 9 damage to the face the following turn
Hmm.
is not something that you can usually afford to do, but we'll see how he decides to deal with it or what he draws into.
Yeah, the thing is, Pavel's used to Unleash, so VX doesn't have to be as afraid of it, whereas the opposite is not true.
Hmm.
So Pavel's Dr. Moon's significantly weaker because it can get Unleashed for 5 on, which could be really crippling. And I mean, you're facing down, like you said, 9, but also the damage from the Spectral Spiders. So 11, and then the bow and the Unleash would give him 5 more.
Hmm.
And suddenly, Pavel's almost dead, so.
Yeah. Well, he could like kill command and trade one of the hounds in, then hound master the other one
Mhm.
to leave a 4/4 and a 4/3 on the board, and then like go face with the bow. You'd still leave the bombs on the board, and you'd still leave the spiders on the board, which could pretty much trade for what the board has. But I'm not sure if there's any other way to deal with it without having to use the kill command on the Doctor Boom.
Yeah, the Hunter's mark actually came up really big this match, whereas normally it's kind of a dead card in Hunter Mirror.
Hmm.
But for Pavel or for VX, I mean, it killed a high main, which otherwise would have gotten Hound Mastered, and then it puts Pavel in a spot where he can start just going face, which is really where you want to be.
Yeah, this is kind of tough. With his hand so thin, okay, that works out a bit better. With his hand so thin, he kind of wants to um, use the quick shot to draw.
Yeah, I think I would have liked just unleashing here though to get the quick shot out of your hand, and you save health on your hero because you save 4 health because you don't have to use your bow to hit. You can just use the quick shot,
Yeah.
and he doesn't really get punished for it because now the unleash is even better. He has 5,
So
8, 10, 13. He's one off.
so he needs to draw into 2 damage for 2 mana. Another quick shot.
Well, he
I
just
think.
needs 1 damage somehow. Lotheb is good, but okay, so your opponent has a hound. So they have 14 damage.
And
Oh
that's
god.
if they can't like efficiently trade off the board because you can use the Leopard to trade in, and then
Yep.
like use a
And
bomb to
then the
try and hit face.
bombs. Yeah.
So
So yeah, this is really ugly for VX. I mean, it kind of goes back to that turn that he took 4 extra damage, didn't use his mana. By now he could have already used that unleash, used that quick shot. He'd have one more option in his hand, and he could play Lotheb pretty safely. But instead, it's going to be he's going to have to do some trading most likely. I mean, he has to play Lotheb clearly, and unless he kills off these bombs and they go in bad places, which it looks like that's what he's doing. Hoping for some RNG. Killing the Leopardome isn't relevant at all. So I'm surprised he trades with the Spectral or with the Hound instead of the Spectral Spider. Generally, the Beast is better to keep on board, but now it's gonna be only 14. So he needs to roll Huffer or Leok, right?
if he rolls
Oh no,
Huffer, no,
he
he
needs
can't because he
Huffer.
can't hero power.
He
Wait, can
need
he still?
he needs Huffer for exact lethal. Yeah. Well,
He
here's the
he wouldn't
thing.
be. Oh yeah, because he'd be able to abusive sergeant it for the extra
If
two
if you
damage.
roll Misha, you're happy, right? Because it's a taunt. And then you abusive your Leopardome, trade into the Lotheb, go face, and you're fine. If you roll Leok, you trade, you're not as happy, you go face, and you're still probably fine. If you roll Huffer, you win. So I think Animal Companion's the play for sure. I don't like this.
You
I,
have
this
experience with having to roll Huffers for a
yeah,
victory, don't you, Jackie?
this feels generally worse than Animal Companion because Animal Companion gives you a 33% chance of a direct win, a
Mhm.
33% chance of a basically win because you have a 4/4 taunt. And wow, I guess he still has lethal with the board state. So
Yeah, I don't think there's nothing that he can draw into that VX14 can draw into to win.
yeah,
So he needs to try
he's
and hope for
hope for something. No,
one-eye cheat is not what he wanted.
yeah, that's about the opposite of what you wanted as a 4 damage creature. I feel like there was some questionable play from
Mhm.
both sides in that game. I mean, it came down to a very tense situation where I don't think either player was expecting it to be so close. I mean, they played pretty. I would just call it kind of like loose play, where you go with what seems to be the general best option, but you're not thinking too in depth. Neither player really roped on their options. I mean, it was just kind of like I'll play this on curve, and then suddenly you have to be. Everyone was trading back and forth, and in the end, Pavel took it though. So
Yeah.
again, not one of those decks you don't expect to win. I mean, Hunter is considered pretty strong, maybe like the second strongest class overall is people's opinion on it. So
Yeah, I'm sure VX14 will find an opportunity to take a win, and I think he knows that, so he's just gonna throw it out again. And um, apparently, we've been pronouncing uh, Pavel's name wrong. We've been told the emphasis is on the V instead of the L. So maybe Pavel or Pavel.
apparently, chat's saying that. I don't know if I trust chat, but
Okay, so you alternate between Pavel and Pavel, and I'll alternate between Pavel.
we'll just cover all our bases. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right.
We'll try and ask him after the next match how he pronounces it. Um, so Patron Warrior versus wow, Pavel has all golden. Patron Warrior. Nope,
No, he
just kidding.
doesn't. Yeah, come on, TJ. The inner rage isn't even
Oh yeah,
golden.
yeah, yeah. It was
Oh
highlighted,
my
so I had the
gosh.
perception.
Wow.
I'm dyslexic of the color spectrum.
And you
Greens
probably
show us golden.
you probably shouldn't be making claims about golden cards then.
Oh look, the web spinner's golden too.
But VX's hand is actually really good for how this game's going to pan out. I mean, I've made Hunter decks, and in my Aggro Hunter, I've actually put in Shredder and Lotheb just because they help the Druid and the Patron matchup so much by giving you a little extra power in the mid game. And when you can curve Shredder into Lotheb, it's pretty nuts against Patron. They have to take so much damage to clear them.
Yeah, especially since like if you play a Pilot Shredder on turn 4, then they Despite,
Yep.
then all of a sudden, unless you get like a 1 health creature, it makes it really tough for them to clear without spells. And like you said, they're taking like 9 damage over the course of
Oh
even
man,
more than that because of whatever comes out of the
it's
Pilot Shredder
even
is going to
more
hit them.
brutal. It's even more brutal when you curve it into a Savannah High main.
Yeah. And he does have Despite, so this is the
Yep.
situation.
Yeah, it just seems like he's going to take too much damage, and it is a freezing trap this time, which is much better than Snake.
Mhm.
We saw Snake from Pavel, but ooh, I mean a 2-1, like you said, when you get a 1 health from the Shredder, it's not as impactful. So that sucks that he got that, but
It's still an extra 2 damage that you can throw into the face. So that Powder Shredder like ended up doing 6 damage,
yeah.
which isn't too bad.
Or like say Pavel go face with the Loot Hoarder. I mean, it feels more likely that it'd be Snake than Explosive, judging by the deck list from VX. But I mean, he didn't get punished either way. It was just freezing. So
Hmm. And he's starting to pile on the damage, putting him at 18. And he does
yeah,
have a little bit of burn in his hand as well with the quick shot and the unleash. So once he puts his Savannah High main down, that's pretty much the key. Throw down the big creatures and then follow it up with the burn to finish out the game.
yep. I mean, he basically had the dream curve. I suppose he didn't hit the Animal Companion on 3, but bow on 3 is about the second best you can get.
Yeah.
Especially when you're bowing down a Frothing Berserker. So even though Pavel gets a nice clear on these, it is super low. Like, and that's the major issue for the Warrior.
Hmm. And it doesn't look like Pavel's going to be able to, like, even if he does manage to clear off the Savannah High main cleanly and stabilize on the board, that he'll be able to find enough turns to piece together enough damage to actually kill VX14 before he uh, is able to put him on a short enough clock to kill him.
Yeah, I think he has to go for that Emperor now. It's a more proactive play. He's gonna try to draw some cards, gain some armor, and clear off the 2/2 though. But it looks like he's gonna go with Armor Smith over the Armor Up, which could end up working out. I mean, we talked a lot about how the Hunter's doing super well, but Pavel did manage to get through it all. He's still at 13. Second high main, though.
That's
Wow.
tough.
Yeah, that's... He's going to have to probably put his face into that Frothing Berserker to protect it, but...
I don't think that's too big of a deal. 6 damage isn't that much, especially since he's only taken
yeah.
2 damage this far this game.
Yeah, 22 and 28, basically the same number unless you're dead to a combo the very next turn.
Yeah, it's true. That's a good
He's
point.
gonna leave it, though. I mean, I don't see why you would, though, because you're basically giving up 6 damage to save 3. And that doesn't seem that great. Yeah, I don't know about that play. Pavel wouldn't have had a real way to clear it.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly now it's... he can get rid of the Armor Smith. But the unfortunate thing is, obviously you don't really want to Juggler Unleash when your opponent's board is Armor Smith, Acolyte, Acolyte. Not the best Unleash in the world.
Nope.
But I mean, it just feels like VX. He's out of great minions. Oh, jeez. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like you can't. Can you like? Can you just do that?
Well, I mean, you can hope
You give
that
him five
first jug.
cards.
You can hope the first juggle hits the armor smith. So
Yeah,
at least you're
you
only
can
giving him cards and not armor.
play the web spinner. You can get juggler web spinner. So you get three. You get one chance to kill the armor smith, so 25%, and then you get two more. I maybe he just has to do this. I mean, a whirlwind's out. I think he should have web spinned first, unless this first one hit the armor smith. Or no, he shouldn't, because then you lose a hound. So
This is like
yeah, he's gonna
from
get way too many juggles here. I mean,
it's
he
like from Lord of the
needs.
Rings where King Theoden's sitting in the castle. How did it come to this?
Yeah, and if Pavel draws a fiery war axe or a whirlwind,
All right, he finally gets the armor smith.
well, you got the clear.
Yes,
He needs to get those attacks off.
5 cards and 4 armor later.
Yeah, 5 cards is solid, and Pavel's at the exact same health he started that turn with.
Mhm.
But it is a lot of damage on board, and it's not easy to clear.
Yeah, he doesn't have like multiple whirlwind effects to be able to do this, so he's got a battle rage to try and draw into something, and that might have just secured him the game. He's got. It's crazy to think that the double knife juggler into unleash on a
He
board with
actually has
Armor Smith and
lethal.
Necklace. Yeah, crazy.
Yep, he has 1 over lethal. 7, 10, 12, 15, yep. So even with this inner rage, that's not enough. And VX14, I mean, he kind of... Oh,
Oh,
yeah, inner rage execute, though. That's enough. Okay. He can draw into kill command. He can draw into animal companion. There's a lot of stuff still. Here we go.
all right, 3 mana. Dr.
Oh.
Boom doesn't help. Helps next turn.
So, we're still going.
Yeah, but I don't know. He's still at 28 health. He's putting him on a
Yeah.
clock. He does have Armor Smith, but he needs to like play a lot of creatures. If he draws into a Whirlwind effect and can get multiple patrons out,
Yeah, the Doctor Room is really going to hurt.
yeah.
I mean... Oh, wow. He's going to be... He's going to be at 6. So, a kill command still ends it. A bow would end it. Not a great drop from the web spinner, though.
Houndmaster. Nope.
1 off.
All
Oh, man.
right, so if
Well? Yeah, now there's a question of what do you do? Because what if there's like a Warsong commander next turn?
yeah, if he plays Warsong, if he plays Dr. Boom and Pavel draws into Warsong Commander and the bombs hit poorly,
Oh, God, that feels so terrible to do.
yeah.
Yeah,
But you
I
gotta
think,
get the Armor Smith out of the way.
yeah, I think he identified the fact that Armor Smith, if there was a Warsong, which it's very likely that he already has one, then you're in trouble.
And I think that should nope, not quite.
So he can Gromish into the 4/3, but you're at 7. So
He's got 5.
You could you could go for the greedy play. Get an extra patron, clear off a 1/1 rather than the 3/2.
Mm.
And I think you kind of have to. I mean, if you trade in your patron, you're not feeling great, and you're still dead to kill command. So yeah, this is the play to make. Animal Companion has a 2/3 chance of ending this game. Only Misha would not end the game. There we go.
You got it.
All right, having some
Well-
flashbacks there.
It's if only well, I guess Leok was what lost you that game yesterday, so
Yeah, Leok was the worst for me. So
well, VX14 finally manages to take a win with the Hunter. I say finally, even though it only took him 2 tries, because those were probably the longest to Hunter games we've seen, especially the Hunter versus Hunter mirror match. That one lasted like 5 minutes,
That
which is
one
like
was like
3 minutes
seven
longer.
turns. That was like
I
eight
know.
turns. Whoa.
Yeah. So VX14 still has Druid and Priest left, and Pavel still has Warlock and that Patron. So we still haven't seen Pavel's Warlock deck. Don't know if it's like Demon Zoo or Malagos or Handlock. And I think that's going to be a pretty big deal as to what that is because um, the decks from VX14 have some pretty big differences in their strengths against like whether or not it's Demon or Malagos or Handlock. Like Druid struggles a lot against Demon Zoo, but they have really good chances to win against Handlock at points.
Yep.
Um, it looks like it is Handlock.
Yep. I think Pavel really just likes the kind of the three most standard decks in the format. I mean, he has just mid-range Hunter, kind of the hybrid Hunter, Handlock, and Patron Warrior. Unless he's really changed things up and thrown in a Control Warrior, which would surprise me. But
Yeah.
one of the few players that I've seen qualify through these opens that actually just brought the three, top tier, so to say, decks. Whereas
Yeah.
everybody else kind of has their own style.
hmm
He's just a very, play what's best. If you can't play it well, learn how to.
Well, there are some players who like struggle with learning new decks. So when they
Mhm.
first start like getting good, they climb with a specific deck, and then they just latch on to that deck.
Yeah.
Like I know for a lot of players, it's Rogue, because their skill just sort of carried over from Miracle. With some players, it's like Druid. They just get so comfortable with Druid that even after Druid sort of falls out, they still want to play it.
Where's my
Um,
wild growth? Why am I not one mana ahead?
yeah.
Well, we do see a Druid in this match, and I mean, for VX, this is one of the better matchups you can queue into. It's not really an auto win, especially when you draw like this poorly.
Yeah.
In fact, I might even say Pavel's favored since there's no wild growth, no innervate, doesn't have a keeper, doesn't have a BGH. I mean, those are basically the four key cards you're looking at.
Yeah, or even just something to play on turn 3 or 4, like a Shade
Yeah.
or a Shredder.
Yeah, he's going to have to like cycle a Wrath, maybe both.
Ouch.
Ideally, he would draw into a wild growth off this first Wrath. Nope. Suddenly, you're reconsidering all the decisions you've made in your life playing Druid.
Yeah. It's like his Priest is his ace deck. Like he
Hmm.
just tries to get through
Yeah.
with the other two.
Well, yeah, and I mean, Handlock is one of the decks that, even if it wins this match, it was probably going to win against Priest anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say Priest versus Patron it's doable, and in
Mm.
fact, some Priest players like the matchup. But I think with really good Patron play, it might be Patron favored. So
And I think VX14, his wonky Priest deck, is actually pretty good against Patron just because it runs double Light Bomb and double Shadow Madness, or at least the one that he ran in one of the qualifiers.
hmm
So it's pretty decent. I think he'd be pretty happy with getting that matchup as like a game 5.
yeah, okay. Well, that was pretty inefficient trades for Pavel, but he does hold on to the board, and that's one of the main things you want to do against Druid.
Mm-hmm.
If you're ahead on board, it's very unlikely that Druid can come back.
Well, this is a pretty sick Emperor from VX14 being able to reduce 3 pieces of combo, but he's already so far behind. He doesn't have BGH. He's staring at a huge board, so all the cost reduction in the world won't help you get through this if you don't have the right cards to deal with it.
Yeah, Keeper's late, obviously, and I feel like you have to Wrath cycle into the BGH now. If he can play Wrath, Swipe, and BGH, clearing the entire board in one turn, but I mean, it's pretty likely he only plays one big game hunter, so.
It's pretty unlikely that he draws into it.
Ooh. I mean, maybe he would just go with the Sylvanas, yeah.
Yeah, it's really problematic. He's already seen an owl, so he can feel pretty comfortable that this Sylvanas is going to get some work done.
Yep, and now we get to see turn 7 Dr. Boom on curve all face.
Yep. Well, he saw that he didn't have the BGH last turn, so
He could actually deal with the Sylvanas in theory. I mean, he could trade in the Giant, and then no matter what your opponent steals, you can trade into it. Um, so he could do that. He's either left with an 8-3, a 2-3, yeah, an 8-3 or a 2-3.
so he's thinking, what could go wrong if I play Doctor Boom here? Like, if I play Doctor Boom, is there any way that he could guarantee to steal something impactful? I don't
I
really
think,
think so.
yeah, I think it would come down to RNG. Maybe not actually, because you would swipe the 2-3. That clears the bombs. You kill off the Owl with your hero power, and then you keep her the 7-7 and run in your 5-5. And
Steal a giant.
actually, you don't have enough mana to do that, so you'd have to get some lucky bomb hits maybe.
Yeah.
And especially with the Lothab, I think he sees this as locking it up more than Doctor Boom,
Mhm.
which I
And
would tend to agree with.
yeah, and with Hellfire, he's got a lot of reach next turn as well. So like, if just Mountain Giant and Lothab survive, he can push through with Hellfire for a victory.
Hmm.
So
So
this is a really intimidating board.
yeah, I think his actual only out is yeah he can either lure to heal himself and hero power and not attack. He would be one out of range of Hellfire then, or he can trade into the Owl, keep his own Sylvanas, hope to
1 and 4,
steal,
the Giant.
hope to steal that giant, and even then, it's pretty likely Pavel just has a BGH of his own. But that's the play. It's a pretty good read here from VX to think, okay, it's pretty likely as Dark Bomb or Hellfire. I don't want to be dead to that, but he's not dead, just barely.
Yeah. 1 damage.
Yep. And if he were going into turn 10, or if he top decks the second Innervate, he actually does have a pretty nasty double combo here.
Yeah.
So there's a chance.
Well, if he draws Savage Roar, he can force double Savage Roar, which is 22 if one creature
22.
survived. Um,
Yeah, and if Pavel trades, he's not setting up lethal because of swipe.
Actually, if he draws Savage Roar, I think it's exactly 25 damage with force double Savage Roar. If he doesn't trade into the
He could draw second Innervate as well.
Yeah, that's true.
So he has 2 outs. And if he trades again, that doesn't set up lethal, so you can just like maybe play your own Boom. There's a chance you draw BGH, and suddenly you can clear the whole board, and you're sitting on Innervate, Force, Savage.
Yeah. Okay. He realizes it because Force of Nature, double Savage Roar. Wow, that would have been it. Wow, that trade by Pavel was very well calculated.
He would have put 4 damage into the taunt, and then
it's exactly 25.
18 plus 9, so he would have had 27.
Oh, okay. I only factored in 1 Savage Roar from the, so it would have been 2 overkill.
Yep. But now we have a really interesting board because you have to. I mean, you have lethal next turn basically if you can set it up and not die. But I mean, obviously Pavel's gonna have heal or taunt, and now it's this really weird situation. How do you go about this? You have to swipe, and it looks like he's gonna swipe first, which means these bombs could decide the game themselves. Okay, he's playing super safe. I might have liked Boom instead. Play a little more risky.
Whoa, we just got the flippity flop.
Oh, 2 bombs for 1. That sucks.
That was a mistake.
And he taps to 22. I mean, he's going to put up a taunt most likely. But
or he can heal bot as well.
Yeah. You have to do one of those. I mean, you saw the Emperor, right? Like, you have to play around it.
Yeah.
It feels like you're almost throwing the game if you play that Mountain Giant. And the worst thing is you have to trade. Like, he was one off lethal if you... Oh, no!
Whoa!
And that's it!
Wow.
That's going to do it.
Wow.
Force... Either force, iterate... Okay, he's going to go with the more tilting option.
Yeah, this is actually more damage. I think this is, what, 24 damage?
I hope so.
No,
Because
it's 26 damage.
if it was less, that'd be kind of awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 26, so... Yeah, a heal or a taunt would have kept the game going, but... Wow. That was...
Pavel.
Well, that almost looked unwinnable for VX, and he went with, like, you know, the risky play there with the keeper your own Sylvanas. Paid
So
off.
I don't know why Pavel would trade the turn prior to play around double combo
And then not.
and then not taunt or heal the turn after. It's
Yep.
just inconsistent line of play, it feels like. Unless, like, trading wasn't his way of playing around double combo. He just felt like he needed to trade.
Well,
Um,
there was the case where the turn before he played around double combo, but also he also knew, okay, if my opponent doesn't have swipe, I win. And then his opponent had swipe, and so maybe the last turn he was thinking, okay, I have to do something pretty soon, or
Yeah.
else eventually combo's gonna get me.
mhm.
But, yeah, I mean, kind of sucks. And he's actually gonna go with the warrior first, so he goes with the harder matchup of the two.
Yeah.
I would assume that Handlock would be better against priest.
Yeah. And VX14 now has 2 opportunities to win with his signature deck. Now, this deck in the open, he was undefeated with it. I mean, well, not in the actual finals of the open, so in the top 4, which basically only means that he was 2-0. But in both of his best of 5s, he won his first matchup with Priest. So
Yep.
this is a pretty okay hand. You can definitely grind Patron Warriors out as a Priest player, especially with a deck like this, if VX14 has a similar deck that he was running when he won one of the opens.
Yeah, and this is the frothing berserker stuff I really don't like, where against priest, you can't rely on the board control way of winning. Patron basically, at its core, has 2 ways of winning the game, which are you make a bunch of patrons and they can't do anything about it, or you frothing charge and kill them in one go and they can't do anything about it, which generally, okay, you go for the patron style play against decks that don't have effective board clears, which priest does. You even see the 2 light bombs in his hand. And then against priest, which has board clears, stuff like that, you have to go for the combo style play. And throwing out a frothing on 3 feels pretty weak to me. So
Yeah. And priests are don't put on a lot of pressure, and they're very control heavy. But unlike warrior, priests cannot go above 30 health. So you realistically can do 30 damage in a single turn if you just wait it out. Use your removal sparingly to try and stop some of the pressure and wait until you have the combo pieces in your hand. So he just threw away one of those pieces.
Yeah, and throwing away that piece, you can still do 30 with 1 frothing. It just becomes much more of a situational, you need exactly perfect stuff. You need the Despite Whirlwind. You need the second Whirlwind. You might even need a third Whirlwind. You need a Patron. Like, you suddenly you need so much more stuff, whereas with just double frothing, you can almost get them from 30 with just double frothing, Despite Whirlwind, and that's enough. And I mean, this just feels like a desperate kind of play here. Like, how often against priest do you just get them with your patron turn?
Stampeding Kodo.
Wow. That's interesting.
I was talking to you earlier when you said you were putting double Shadow Word Pain in your priest deck.
Yeah,
And
that's
Stampeding
like a third
Kodo is
one.
basically like a third Shadow Word Pain.
Yeah, he's gonna trade in his Death Lord first just to. He was hoping he could get something with that. I don't know how much I like that because it pulled something like an Acolyte. That's bad. You also leave behind just a 2/1 if you do it the other way. But this way, he's gonna get the Shadow Madness, most likely, and get the draw, deny the draw, and take the draw.
Yeah. but also if you had pulled out like a Grim Patron, then all of a sudden he has no
So,
patrons left.
yeah,
So I think it was smart to throw in
yeah.
the
Also, the Emperor would be really sick to pull out. The second frothing, even, you'd take a lot of damage, but once you remove it, which you do next turn easily with maybe the second light bomb, maybe death, you're pretty much in the clear.
yeah.
And that's kind of how I feel about this. Is how it's going. It's like one war song out of the way, one patron out of the way. The Emperor, I mean, VX doesn't know this, but the Emperor didn't hit anything relevant.
Well,
I
now
mean,
he's gonna effectively know it because he's gonna play
yeah, and
half the cards that
this
were.
is, and he's just like going for it now with Gromish. And I mean, I feel like if VX is just slightly patient, I mean, I'd like to see him cabal that 2-1 and not be too afraid. Just really want to deny the draw, limit the patron's options, and then you clean up with the second light bomb.
Yeah,
And then you taunt up behind 2 Belchers, and you should just win.
yeah,
I mean, he obviously has played this matchup a lot. That's the really nice thing about bringing these decks to tournaments, like Priest, is if you practice a bunch of Priest, there's a lot of Patron out there. You're going to get to know the Priest versus Patron matchup, whereas the Patron player doesn't run into Priest that much. So they don't really know what, they need to do. And I mean, I don't know if inexperience is coming into this for Pavel, but it seems like he's just going for a really aggressive line, which rarely works against Priest.
usually you play against it once, and then for like the next day, you know exactly how to play into it because you make the mistakes the first time. Like playing that Frothing Berserker, and then he Shadow Pains, you're like, oh yeah, that
Yep.
exists. I won't do
Yep.
that next game. Well,
You
but in
just
a Conquest format.
So it looks like basically VX is just kind of playing around the possibility of taking 12 from that Gromish, which
Mhm.
would have happened with Inner Rage off the top, and setting up for the second Light Bomb next turn to just kind of clean up this game. And he should be, I mean, he's not out of the woods yet, but he'll be pretty safe.
Yeah. Well, that's actually a pretty good combo there. If he sees Light Bomb this turn, Pavel could
Mhm.
actually go for Warsong Commander, Grim Patron, Cruel Taskmaster, and Enrage the next turn.
Yeah, and I mean, you can go for Belcher Shadow Madness here, and kind of try to bait out the last patron combo, and then he would win with the light bomb. But like, if you really want to play around second war song, second patron, and then some, I feel like it's pretty common you would see the light bomb here. It'd be a pretty sick read if he just went for the less safe play basically, but it ends up being safer with Shadow Madness into Belcher. Again, I
Yeah.
really would have liked to see the Cabal the other turn. Not, I feel like he was afraid too quickly, and now it's coming kind of back to bite him. Where it's
Yeah.
like, okay, you were afraid last turn. Now the same situation presents itself. Now you can't Cabal. Like, are you just gonna waste this light bomb? Yep. So,
And I feel like
and
that Northshire Cleric is not going to get played
yeah. Well,
ever.
that's he will get to steal the war song, and then Shadow Madness, the patron, and run it into another patron. So it's almost a matter of can he stabilize if Pavel goes for it this exact turn. And I mean, I think Pavel needs to go for it this turn because if you
uh,
wait one more turn, then the priest gets to set up.
yeah.
But he's not going to. And yeah, I mean, this just kind of gives VX more time. He could draw into a frothing, but at that point, you can't really play everything out that you want to. He did draw a lot, though.
Yeah,
Again,
well, with the second Despite and Warsong Commander in hand, and he knows he has a Froth Berserker in the rest of his deck, he's actually got a lot of damage in his hand. He could even get through like a Belcher as well.
yeah, VX didn't deny the draw. He wanted to make sure he didn't die. So he didn't cabal that loot hoarder or anything, and now he's kind of getting punished for that because Pavel just has a full hand, and Pavel's waited out both light bombs. They came out, I would say, almost like too prematurely, and now it's suddenly scary again for VX.
If he plays Sylvanas here on the empty board, I think he's debating on whether or not he wants to play the Sludge Belcher to protect. Because if he plays Sylvanas on empty board, he's at 18. He knows that Pavel still has one
Another
reduced
frothing.
card and another frothing and whirlwind effects.
Yep.
Like Inner Rage, and I think he still has both of his actual just straight up whirlwinds. And Dread Corsairs with a Deathbite and Warsaw Commander actually end up becoming just 3 extra damage. So
this could just be game, actually. We'll have to see how the damage works out. Oh, I thought he had a Deathbite equipped, but it's just a War Axe, so...
it's still a lot of damage.
It's looks like 15 if he can get all the extra patrons, which I believe he can, yeah. So he's got 15, but he's got the axe hit, right? So that's it? Yeah.
Yeah, and then he's got both Dread Corsairs, so exact lethal. He spotted that very quickly. Or maybe he just said, you know what, I'm just going to go along with it and hope it's lethal.
Well, even if it wasn't lethal, what does VX do?
Yeah, no light bombs left. He'd use Shadow Madness as well. Both Shadow Madness, actually.
Yep. I think it just kind of comes back to he was too scared too early. You definitely have reason to be scared against Patron, but if they have the perfect everything, you're probably going to lose.
Yeah.
You have to assume something is missing. You just kind of have to guess what's missing based on how they've played.
Yeah. Well, we are going to go to the second Game 5 of the day. 2 matches so far. 2 matches going all 5 games. So it is going to be VX14 on the Priest versus Pavel bringing out the Handlock again. So VX14, I mean, Priest is generally known to just be absolutely terrible against Handlock because they just don't have enough damage to kill him and there's too many big threats. But VX14 actually does have some tools. He's got double Light Bomb and double Death. So he can fight back, but his removal has to line up.
Yeah, he's got
some keeps it.
He's got some funny stuff in his deck, like Pain, Shrinkmeister Pain, to deal with Twilight Drakes. He's got double Light Bomb. If Pavel overextends, he even has double Death in his hand already. So he's got removal. It's more a case of how do you push to end the game, especially if Pavel has something like Lord Jaraxxus.
Yeah. Even Shrinkmeister Kodo for Twilight Drakes.
Sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's... He's really hoping to top deck that Shrinkmeister right now, or else he's going to have a tough time against that 4-8. Sylvanas is going to be met with an owl this game almost surely, so...
Yeah.
It's looking like textbook Handlock right now, where your first threat's not answered. All right, let's go. And the Priest, looking like textbook Priest, doing absolutely nothing with their first 10 mana. So...
Power Wood Shield.
I think the way I would play Priest, I mean, I play a much more proactive style where, yeah, you want to get, no matter how bad it looks, you just want to get a minion down. And VX is going to go with that kind of style here. I don't think that's how he likes to play this deck. You obviously want to get value if you're playing Stampeding Kodo over another 5-drop, which could have more stats. But in this case, he recognizes, okay, I need to do something, or else this game's going to fall out of my control quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, Sylvanas, if he plays that next turn, like you said, just going to be met with an owl. He does have ways to deal with giants if they come down, but there actually aren't any besides the Molten in Pavel's hand.
Yeah, I like the BGH here over like Sun Fury. He had to play something, and the Sun Fury would have lined up perfectly with the Cabal. The BGH basically doesn't really get punished by anything, so did some work there for him. Pavel does have the option of not owling. I mean, I'm not Not too sure how great that would be. You do kind of keep the board clear, but
He's
I
got
mean,
both of them.
yeah, with the
What other owl targets
Argus,
are there?
yeah, that's the thing is, especially with the Argus, you get such a nice trade into this. You leave a 5/1 Twilight Drake. You haven't seen like Wild Pyromancer out of VX, so you're just creating this awkward state. I'm a little surprised he. I guess he's thinking, okay, if he deaths this, I'm happy because my deck has way more death targets.
Yeah. And he's really thinking about it. He's like, well, if I death this, then I need to sort of pace out the rest of my um, removal. Like he's got to hit multiple
Uh-huh.
giants with his light bombs. Um, yeah, there's the double holy fire coming in again. There was a game that he was playing in the open where his opening hand was like double holy fire and a light bomb, and he still ended up winning. Like there's just so many six drops in this deck.
Yeah, that's
There's
one of the
double cabal.
cards I really didn't like in my testing with Priestess. Holy Fire just seems too much of its card budget is in healing you. You know, it's not efficient for its cost if you don't get use out of the healing. And even
Yeah,
when you do get use out of the healing against Hunter, against those aggro decks, it's usually too slow.
yeah.
So
Well, it could be used as burst against Handlock later on in the game. So that's
that's
one thing.
that's true, especially if you have something like Emperor Thorson in your deck, so you can play two at once. But I suspect they'll just be used for removal this game. One of the things that the Light Bomb Priest really lacks against Handlock, because at first glance the Light Bombs seem great against Handlock, but compared to the normal Akanai Circle combo, you don't have that extra burst from the Akanai Zombie Chow, Light of the Naru to face, stuff like that,
Yeah.
which is, I found, was basically the way I would beat Handlock if I were to beat them at all, is you just kind of take them by surprise with the 13 damage combo or something.
Yeah.
He does have double pain as well, so lots of two ofs going for consistency in despite being kind of a crazy deck.
Yeah, we've actually seen most of his two ofs in this game so far, with both Holy Fires, both Light Bombs, and both Pains being in his hand. Now, like he's one piece away from being able to deal with Twilight Drakes really easily. Like a Shrinkmeister, you could have Shrinkmeister Cabal that turn if he had drawn into it.
Yeah,
Um, but he hasn't had that line up, and as the game goes on, those combos are going to become less and less effective because he's going to be facing giants as opposed to Twilight Drakes.
yeah. The pain lines up pretty well with Healbots and with Belchers especially, but other than that, nothing too great to pain without that Shrinkmeister, like you said.
Oh,
So it almost feels like the Handlock, if it has enough late game threats, is just going to slowly generate advantage in this game. But there is still definitely a chance. Mind Control isn't too bad. You already saw one big game hunter from Pavel. You actually have to kind of be afraid of just dying straight up. You've only seen one Hellfire. Pavel actually has 6 from hand right now, so. But yeah, I feel like Mind Control was the best play there.
yeah. Now that way he saves his second death for something a little bit more impactful, like the Molten Giants later.
Yeah,
Um,
and the Holy Fires, like I said, they're under budget if you don't get value from healing, but it looks like he's going to get value from healing, so.
yeah. But that other point that you mentioned, it being too slow.
that kind of holds true as well. He can finally get that Stringmeister combo off, and he gets to Holy Fire to kind of heal up, and he probably leave his opponent with 2 Slimes. He can also just leave him with a Belcher. No,
Yeah.
he's going to leave him with the 2 Slimes, but this almost opens him up to that second Hellfire. And again, it's like, where do you go from there afterward? He's going to hold on to the Holy Fires, I guess, realizes that's the best target in the deck for Pain.
Wow.
And 2 off lethal again for Pavel.
Yeah, these Holy Fires are really going to put a wrench in his plans as well once they actually come out. That's healing that you don't really factor in
Uh-huh.
when you're going for it. I mean, there's like things like Light of the Naro, and if Pavel actually did his research, he would know that VX14 actually plays double Holy Fire a lot.
Hmm.
The Hellfire is still going to be of use though.
Lothab's
And
really annoying here because you probably have to death.
oh no,
Yep. It feels bad because you know death is so valuable, but you can't just take five, you just die.
Mhm.
And yeah, all the other cards are denied. And now's the point where basically, what's stopping Pavel from just going Lord Jiraxis? I mean, he wants the one thing that's stopping him is the fact that he wants to play these Molten Giants out. That's what's stopping him.
Yeah, that's true.
But
I mean, there is that classically. That's always been the one thing that is sort of like the nail in the coffin for Priest. Is as soon as a Warlock plays Jiraxis, the game is nearly over unless the Priest is going to kill them, which is very rare
yep.
because they just don't have a way to deal with the 6/6s that come out every turn. You light bomb him down, all of a sudden he spawns two more because you're not developing any threats for yourself.
Yeah, the biggest issue here is not that VX couldn't deal with all the pressure. I mean, we saw he was able to deal with basically every threat that's come out in a reasonable way. He has, he drew both deaths, he drew both pains, he drew both holy fires, he drew both light bombs. Like he can deal with the stuff, but from Pavel's point of view, he's never felt threatened once this game. He's never felt like, oh, I might lose this game. He's just
Yeah.
felt completely in control.
Yep.
And I guess Harrison's one of the few cards you care about here. But even then, like, what does that even do?
Yeah. And he wishes he had that last turn so he could have Volgined and then
Holy
Holy
Nova.
Fired or Holy Nova, yeah.
Yep.
But fortunately, it's a turn too late. Now he really does want to trade, so he's basically pigeonholed into just using the second Holy Fire here to clear it
Yep.
off. That's so inefficient. Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, those are his, like you said, those are kind of his burst cards too. So that's the one drawback of Jiraxis is that your health becomes lower. But I mean, with two heal bots, unless VX has some crazy Mind Blast combo, which pretty sure he doesn't, then
Yeah.
this is going to be fairly easy game for Pavel.
He basically just has to play patiently, basically not overextend into light bombs, use his infernals as his threats, and it should just be smooth sailing because I don't think VX14 will ever have enough oomph to be
Mhm.
able to close it out.
Yep. He might go for the Vol'jin Holy Nova this turn just to get something into play. I'd create a 6/6, which is actually unfortunate because then it dies to your light bomb, which you have to use probably next turn to get through these taunted watchers.
Yeah. The other way would just be to deal with or to light. If you light bomb now, you're not clearing off anything but the Dread Infernal. He
Yeah,
can draw a card though with his Northshire Cleric.
yeah, he leaves 5 damage showing. He knows both owls are gone, so that's not a huge deal. The fact that there are watchers staring him down, those won't really do anything. He's planning to Vol'jin Holy Nova this next turn, but now the issue is Pavel can extend as much as he wants.
Hmm.
Yeah, Pavel gonna obviously doesn't want to draw a card this late into the game.
Yeah.
So
He realizes he has everything to win. He like doesn't even need
yeah,
cards. He can just Infernal every turn.
that's it. I mean,
Yep.
he's just dead to board. He can clear off everything with the Infernal, but that's enough damage. So Lord Jiraxis, as he commonly is, the bane of priests.
Strikes again.
Yeah, just a textbook game from Pavel. I mean, just seemed almost just too easy.
Yeah. All right. Well, VX14 is going to fall down to the losers match, and Pavel's going to move on to face Dog in the winners match. So VX14 will get another chance, and he'll actually, even if he loses today, he gets another chance tomorrow because he won 2 open, so he gets to play in both groups. But the next match, I believe, is going to be the winners match. So we're going to move the winners match, then the losers match, and the final elimination match. So 3 matches left. So it is going to be Pavel versus Dog. And after seeing these guys play in one match so far, Before we go to a break, Chalky, what are your predictions?
I mean, I really like Pavel's choice to just kind of bring the three best decks, but
Mhm.
I feel like Rogue actually matches up really well against all of them because the Hunter's not that aggressive. So I think Dog actually has a slight advantage in that. And I mean, from seeing Dog play a lot, he's been doing incredibly well lately. Very strong player. I mean, he has to be my pick to win next match, but Pavel, maybe he'll take it.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see. But we are going to go to a quick commercial break before we jump into the next match. Make sure during the break you're heading over to geico.onog.gg. You can enter in to win your official TSM PC and get a quote from Geico to save money on your car insurance. So don't go anywhere. The winner's match between Dog and Pavel will return right after this.